Welcome back to the Boundary Corner podcast. After surviving a hellacious Father's Day weekend, my partner and I, Brian Siegler, how was your
What's
week?
up, buddy? I'm good, man. I heard you were grinding out there over the weekend.
Pool, golf, everything. Pool with the kids, not just pool like sitting poolside, hanging out, having a beer. Pool with the kids, which was a ton of fun. And went to the golf course yesterday, just hit some balls. And as I'm leaving, my brother-in-law rolls up, says, "Hey, I'm here with a buddy and his pops. You want to join and be the fourth?" Why not?
You can't say no to that. You can't say no to that.
What about you, man?
It was a pretty fun weekend. We just we hung around here on Saturday, and then on Father's Day, actually had a neighbor had his daughter's birthday party, so I went over there. There was axe throwing at the kids' birthday party, so I was doing the axe throwing while the kids were like on the water slides, and then we came back here and had a cookout with some of the parents came over. So pretty solid weekend.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, tonight, folks, we are bringing on a guy that we have mentioned numerous times. He is a buddy of ours going all the way back to middle school. Legitimately, me and Brian went to middle school, high school, and college with this guy. And he has been in the high school coaching ranks for well over right at 15 years. Coached at Halifax County High School down in South Boston, Virginia, our high school alma mater. And then from there, went over to J.H. Rose High School down in Greenville, North Carolina, where he produced multiple NFL talent, multiple collegiate prospects, and also got an inside view to the camping world. So without further ado, our buddy, Robbie Compton.
Here we go.
What's up, fellas?
How's it going, buddy?
What's
hanging
happening?
in there, man. Hanging in there. Didn't have quite the Father's Day weekend experience you guys had. Did a little traveling. Had to get back home. You know, was trying to get this thing done one night late last week, but my location didn't allow that to happen. So spending a little time in Western North Carolina in the mountains, and reception's not so good.
No, it's not.
Not so good. Not so good. Hey, we tried to get it rolling on Thursday, didn't quite get it going, but hey, we're here tonight. We're having fun, so that's all that matters.
Damn right. Well, it's funny because last week we got together with Robbie because we're running through stuff that we should talk about, getting his insight, lining this up, and it was good. Like we were like, this is gonna work. This is awesome. And then what'd you say, Robbie, earlier today?
Oh, it was probably 1 in 1,000 chance that we got to talk the day before that you actually found enough signal.
All the stars aligned on Wednesday afternoon when we sat down and had our little pregame there, and then when it was time for prime time, it didn't quite happen.
Yeah, we got blocked by the Great North Wilkesboro Raceway. So if I have my way, it's going to come back. You guys, if you have anything to do, I'm just going to throw that out there. Go check it out. Bring back the track. North Wilkesboro Speedway. We got to bring that thing back to its prominence.
Well, are they getting the Earnhardt? Isn't Earnhardt dumping some money into it?
There's a bunch of different ideas right now of streams of revenue that they're trying to go in there and bring that track back along with a couple other tracks in North Carolina. I don't live in North Carolina right now, but I'm a big supporter of those old tracks down there, and the heart and the origination of stock car racing comes from a lot of those tracks in North Wilkesboro and Rockingham. They're gonna do some things, I think, in the future to bring some of that stuff back. But
I hope they do, because I can remember being kids, and I say kids, we were probably, third grade and up. Those tracks were fun because when they were at those tracks, it was some bumping and some grinding and some racing and some fist fighting after the game or after the races in the parking lots.
Helmets thrown in cars, all that fun stuff.
People jumping in, kind of like a typical Saturday night at South Boston Speedway.
Oh yeah.
I'll be there on the 3rd, boys.
You'll be there? Okay.
I wish I was, but I don't think I'm going to make it to that one.
Right on.
But yeah, I think you might as well throw it in there. I was like, because you're not going to find. I'm on a Virginia Tech podcast. You're not going to find a bigger supporter of Virginia Tech than Jeb Burton, and
True.
Jeb and Ward are two of the biggest proponents in trying to bring that track back, along with Rockingham. So I'll do what I can to help them out and try to put that word out a little bit.
Good stuff, man.
Definitely put the word out there. Get the original NASCAR tracks back to maybe bring some people back to the sport of watching it. So, yeah. So, Robbie, obviously, we hit you up a couple months ago and started talking to you about camps. And obviously, June 1, the dead period finally ended, and everybody all over this country opened up camps. And not one or two. I think what Virginia Tech has still got more going on this week.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, so many camps. So as we started talking, me and Brian kind of we hit up Robbie one day. We're all like on Skype and we're chatting. And the next thing you know, like an hour had went by. We're just chatting up the stuff. And it's like, oh, we got an episode. We got to do this. We got to bring our boy on. We got to talk to him about it. So what we're going to start with, folks, is you see these camps, right? Brian, Robbie, you see guys saying, going to the camp.
Yep.
And then as we start talking to Robbie, well, how the hell do you get invited to the camps?
These camps, you'll see a lot of these camps, especially here in the last few years, you get flyers, you get you can see driving back the other day from Wilkesboro, I noticed on one of they have the digital boards now, the image changes. There was one up there coming outside of Greensboro, I think it was, for UNC. And of course, it says Mac Brown is back. Last time I checked, Mac Brown been back 3 or 4 years. Mac Brown is back. Check out his football camp.
Still back.
Yeah, they've got all these dates listed for his camps on the billboard out there.
Yeah.
I mean, so the camps are huge. They're pushing these things. And, I mean, there's so many ways with these camps nowadays. The big thing, of course, as coaches, these colleges and things have these camps. They put these camps on, and they'll mail out flyers and stuff to the coaches. Okay, especially I know in North Carolina it's huge. From all the other places, all the other colleges, they have mailers for the different high schools, and they'll send them to the coaches. The coaches can post them in their locker rooms, weight rooms, or whatnot. And then the kids can see the camps there. On every one of those mailers, it has a thing on there. It says, for prospects, see such and such.com, Virginia Tech, or wherever their campsite comes up. And the athletes can go in there and it'll bring up a questionnaire, and they can fill out things for the questionnaire to put their information in as a prospect. And once they do that, they'll get tons of information from those schools as a prospect. They'll get mailers about camps. They'll get flyers about, it's promotional mailings from the colleges. Yeah. Now, a lot of kids get that confused with recruiting. Yeah. But you put the name to those things, and you're going to get the information that they want you to get. It's going to promote them. It's going to look the best that they can, and a lot of that information comes to those camps. I mean, you can put that in there, and then it'll send you a thing, and you can get right to that campsite, find it, sign up. You can pay your dues. They'll link to hotels and stuff in the area, and they'll get you hooked right up and right into that camp and ready to go, man.
So now, Brian, I think you asked this the other week about, is that the only way?
No, that's not the only way. There you have I say, I went to the recruiting part. Now, there's players, typically your bigger schools, your Power 5 schools, things like that, they're looking for they're looking for those athletes in between their 10th and an 11th grade year going into their junior season. Okay. Now, when those prospects are there in that 10th and 11th grade season, they're top end prospects. You're hearing about them and all these recruiting bases and all those things like that. Those coaches and those recruiters know who those guys are. and they're talking to those guys and they're telling them, these are the days of our camps. And all of these schools are going to have, if you see the flyers, you see the stuff, they'll have Thursday, Friday, Saturday junior day camps or prospect camps. Yep. They might have a Saturday afternoon. They might have a 7-on-7 tournament. They may have a team camp. They'll have all kinds of camps. It's not just an individual camp, but they have all different kinds. And they go through things like that. And they'll find those prospects, and they'll make sure that those kids get those camp dates. Yep. And they're going to get those kids to those camps. So I mean, you're going to have situations where some of these kids, your top end prospects, they want them there on campus so bad. It's an unofficial visit. They can get them there they can waive the cost of the camp. They can give scholarships or vouchers for the cost of the camp. If the athlete has issues paying for the camp, things like that. But if they're recruiting that kid and they need that kid to be seen in front of their coaches, that kid's going to be at that camp. They're going to get them there.
Well, while we're on that, I know you kind of talked about the different types of camps. Some are Thursday, Friday, Saturdays. Some are on different days. Let's just run through the different types of camps that you see offered by these universities.
Oh yeah, the different kinds of camps. I mean, you'll see camps such as, like I said, individual schools will have their own camps. Yep. You'll have say Virginia Tech or UNC, NC State. They're going to have a camp, and you're going to see it 9 times out of 10. It's going to be sponsored by their head coach. It'll be Dave Doran football camps.llc.com or however it goes in that nature. I'm not out trying to promote any of them. I don't know what the sites are, but generally they're ran by a limited liability company from the coaching point, not from the university. And I'm sure there's the whole NCAA thing behind all of that. I'm not sure how that works.
So that's run essentially by the coaches LLC, and they're essentially leasing the
exactly
university
space. They're kind of leasing the facilities and things from the university.
Yep.
And the old way they used to do it is they did a lot of that with so that they could hire coaches and things like that to come in and help with the camps and do some things of that nature. That's how I got involved with a lot of them. I worked several camps. I worked camps at Duke, UNC, a bunch at NC State. I worked some at ECU. I actually did a couple of things at Virginia Tech years ago, but I wasn't paid for that. I just took a kid there. They found out I wasn't a coach, so they had me help with a few little things just because they knew I had some experience. But
so hold on, I'm gonna ask a quick question, and this is kind of gonna go back to both pieces. So when you're saying they're ran by an LLC or the coaches LLC or something, and you're talking about scholarships, so essentially, if you have a player right now that they want, the kid doesn't have $200, the kid can't stay at a hotel room, essentially they're just saying, "Hey, Robbie, you just get him up here. Well, he will take care of the payment. Don't worry."
They're not gonna provide a place to stay or anything like that. But they can get rid of the cost of the camp.
Okay.
And I think that's where a lot of the thing comes from, being with the coach and stuff. And that's just my opinion and my view on it. Yeah. When it comes to dealing with the NCAA, I don't know that you'll ever get a straight answer of exactly how that runs, but I mean, I think
it's one of those fun gray areas that the NCAA has.
I think that's a big part of it. But they do. They're going to get those kids there, those prospects that they really like. They're going to get them there, and they're going to find ways. Now,
something I heard, it was mentioned, J.C. Price, who just got hired from Marshall over to Tech, obviously alumni and everything. He mentioned numerous times, and Brian, I think me and you talked about this probably a couple months ago. He was consistently mentioning, Justin Hamilton mentioned too, about, when Marshall was up here. What are those? What are the,
Just like you have those individual team camps, you'll see, especially in those individual camps, you'll get those big Power 5 schools the big names, they draw bigger prospects. I mean, that's how it works.
Yeah.
The bigger the name, the bigger the prospects they'll draw.
Yep.
Well, and they'll also draw more numbers. So you get a lot of teams that work with guys. I remember going to several of the Virginia Tech things with a couple of recruits we had from Halifax. Every time I went there, you could always count on a representative or a coach somewhere from JMU being there. Coach Price was one of them, I think, at the time with JMU that was at several of those. But they have schools locally that have ties in to them, whether their coaches played or once coached at that school or coached with that coach at another school, things of that nature. So what they're seeing is, you've got these top end prospects, but you've also got some smaller kids that maybe hadn't been noticed yet that some of these smaller schools can get in and see at that camp because they're coming to Virginia Tech's camp and may not be coming to JMU's camp.
Okay.
You may see a school like Bridgewater or VMI, Washington and Lee may have somebody at some of those because they're fairly local. They're closer, small Division III schools or something like that. They can pick up prospects that way too by seeing them at camp and picking things up. And that happens a lot at those individual team camps.
Okay.
But now the biggest trend now, you get a lot of like satellite camps and these big mega camps where you might get a group of 2 or 3 coaches hosting this huge thing, and it turns into like a regional camp. So you've got 2 or 3 colleges. They're big in North Carolina. UNC Charlotte, North Carolina A&T will hold one, and then they'll have all of the HBCUs coming in. You'll have big schools like Penn State, Michigan that come in and look at things like that. Schools from far away. And I think what a lot of that is doing is they're bringing these prospects that are having trouble getting 1,500 miles from, central North Carolina to Ann Arbor, Michigan. Now, all of a sudden, they can come to these camps because they've been invited to these satellite camps, and they can see prospects in regions that would take way too much to get them up there.
Outside of their normal footprint, yeah.
Yeah. There's one thing to hold an $85 camp and say, hey, I can take care of the $85 and get you to camp, but you got to get here. It's a lot easier to drive 2 hours from the coast of North Carolina into Raleigh and then get back afterwards, rather than it is, hey, we'll waive your $85 camp fee in Ann Arbor, Michigan, but you got to figure out how to get 1,500 miles up here and back. That's a little bit different story. So that's where those bigger camps come in like that.
Sure.
And then you have the Nike Elite, the VTO camps, and the things like that. They're bragging rights, measuring stick camps. They're going to give you pure numbers. You'll have some coaches and stuff there, but 9 times out of 10, they're held sometime when the recruiting period is so-called closed. So they're getting 40 times and vertical jumps and all of those kinds of scores. They're looking at those things, and it's a way to kind of compare athletes. So that kind of camp's a little bit different. But some of the things still apply there. Is you'll get kids coming in there that are invited there and not paying to get into them a lot of times.
That was going to be my next question. I was like, how many with the sponsor camp? How many of those are like invite only or mostly invite only, and how many are more like those individual camps in terms of, if you can pay the money to get there, you can go.
Yep. The you can go to any of them when you pay that fee to get there.
Okay.
Usually the only restrictions is they cut off at an age group. Usually it's either rising 9th graders to rising seniors, things of that nature. But they don't typically have 6th and 7th graders, things like that. Now, there are camps out there that will take the really young kids. I myself am not a huge fan of that. I don't understand why you're going to recruit a kid in 6th grade, and but that's more of a basketball thing. It's a whole different. conversation. They like to start recruiting early before the kid ever hits a second growth spurt. And, I mean, whatever. But
I mean, unless you're a sixth grader that can sling the ball 50 yards, I'm not sure what you're really going to gain out of that, right?
Absolutely. Well, you never know. That 110-pound sixth grader can sling the ball 50 yards. By the time he hits the 10th grade, might be 270 pounds and might be one hell of a long snapper.
Exactly.
You never know. But
now, I'm trying to think, Robbie. I go back to that conversation with Kentavious Street, one of your players down at Rose, obviously, member of the San Francisco 49ers. Did he go was his Under Armour, was that just the game, or did he go to the camp and the game?
He did not. He went to several. He went to a couple of the Nike VTO camps. I think to an Under Armour camp. Okay. He actually he was invited to the Under Armour All American game.
I remember that.
He was also invited. He also went to the U.S. Army All American Combine and was the MVP of the U.S. Army All American Combine, and was invited to the U.S. Army All American game, which is the one he played in.
Was he already on the radar of a lot of schools, or was when he got to that U.S. Army combine where it popped, where he was getting some regional attention? I remember we offered him, state offered him. Was that where he went from a regional prospect to? I mean, he was 96. He was in the top 100.
Yeah, absolutely.
Remember that.
He was on some radars early on in his high school career, and I say that because in his 9th grade season he was in Georgia.
Okay.
And he was actually playing at Coffee High School in Georgia. He was playing with another guy that's in the NFL. I think he plays for the Chiefs, Tyreek Hill.
Oh, really?
I think they were in the same high school deal in the same high school area in Georgia.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah, they've got some pretty good reason to talk about prospects there, I would think. Especially the two of them faced off in a Super Bowl, I don't know, 2 years ago. But he had some recruiting ideas when he came to us.
Okay.
And the thing was there was a year in there, a year to a half a year where he had moved and people were just kind of wondering where he went to because, he was trying to find it. Then all of a sudden he started popping up at camps, up and down the East Coast where he was popping up in, Georgia and Georgia Tech and Ole Miss and some areas down there. Then he started popping up UNC, NC State, Virginia Tech. He started popping up in a different area. People started to recognize, is this kid that good that he spread that far now? But he started in a different recruiting area, so different coaches started seeing it, and then he hit that MVP and at that U.S. Army game, and it really took off. I mean, the coaches that were recruiting him before started finding out where he was. New coaches started coming in. The coaches that were recruiting him then, it appeared. So that's another one of those camps. He went to several other camps that kept getting him recognized. He kept running up the ladder as a higher prospect, kept getting invited to more camps, and that's where he ended up. I mean, I think that year that he graduated, he was the number 2 or number 3 defensive end in the country behind Deshaun Hand.
Yeah.
Out of Woodbridge in Northern Virginia. He ended up going to Alabama.
Yes, he did.
And Kentavious elected to go to NC State with a little bit more of a family atmosphere and the thought of playing from the beginning, which he did. He started all 4 years. So
yes, he did.
He had a pretty solid defensive line when he was there too. He was great. He was a standout, but they were pretty solid across the board.
I think he was a member of 4 defensive linemen that were drafted in the first 4 rounds of the 2018 draft. So, yeah, it worked out pretty well for that group of guys.
Yep.
And he's still in the league, still under contract with the Niners.
Absolutely.
Waiting for you to fly me out to a game so we can go see him.
Hey, I was all ready to go to a game last year.
Oh, yeah.
Right. We all know how that happened. I had a cardboard cutout of myself to put in the stadium out there to make it feel like I was there. Actually, those were kind of expensive.
Exactly.
So Robbie, let's pivot a little bit. So we figured out what's going on, what these camps are about. You're a player, you're a coach, you got some players that are signed up for these camps. What do they expect when they get there?
Man, when they roll into that camp, it's gonna be eye opening to some of those individuals. Like I said, you're gonna have age limits on these camps. A lot of them are gonna be rising ninth graders to rising juniors. Okay, those rising 11th graders. I'm sorry, rising seniors. Those rising 11th graders, rising seniors. They're looking to find their place for the 4 years when they finish high school.
Yep.
Younger guys are trying to get their names, trying to get themselves seen, trying to get their names on the scene and start building that reputation. And what you're going to get when you get there, all right, they're going to come in. A lot of the camps that I've been around, I've worked, they're going to roll in, and they have some kind of idea of how many they want in the group, and they're going to come in and they're going to register and say they're going to have like an hour for registration. So you have an hour of time to get there. When so many kids get there, they're going to start them stretching, and they're going to send them off to the side. And then the next group of so many is coming in, they're going to start them to stretching and get them going. And when that hour's up, they're going to bring them all together, start splitting them off by position, things of that nature. And then they're going to start those combine type workouts. You're going to have a lot of them have 40s, pro shuttle, vertical jump or broad jump. Different schools do different ones. Vertical jump, broad jump. You're going to have L drills and things of that nature. So they're gonna get those combine scores. They're also going to get the height and the weight, things like that. Those are the ones that tell the big truth, because college coaches, when they hit that combine, they're going to tell the truth, Jack. There's going to be a lot of kids disappointed in the first 10 minutes they get to that camp, because their high school coach has been telling them that they're 6'3", and that cat's 6'1" and a quarter. Well, in high school, we want the other team to think that our skill guys are bigger than they are, and we want them to think our linemen are smaller than they are. So when they walk that lineman and they go, well, he's only 6'1" and 260 pounds. Yeah, that cat's 6'5", 290 pounds. I'm going to have my hands full.
Yeah. Wait, so hold on. So you're saying high school coaches might be fudging the numbers a little bit to get a mental edge over the –
yeah. Put some tube socks on it. Put your cleats on. Stay on your tippy toes. I get a measurement.
We're gonna measure our skill guys. We're gonna measure our skill guys with cleats on and on the tiptoes. And if they've got the faux hawk, we're gonna measure the top of that thing. We're not pressing. The linemen are gonna be barefooted with bent knees and
slouching.
Yes. We're gonna
roll your shoulders forward a little bit. We don't need that extra half inch.
So that at the very beginning of that camp, that's why I said it's going to be a little bit eye-opening. Some of these kids, when they do some of these things, they're going to think they're fast and all of this, and they're going to find some kids who truly are fast. And it's going to awaken some of them that, hey, I'm here to get my name put out there. I got a lot of work to do before I hit that rising junior, rising senior year, where people are going to be trying to push offers and things of that nature. I got a lot of work to do if I'm going to keep up with those guys. But it gives them that mental edge. They get to see those, what it's like to be that kind of prospect. And that's a big thing.
But it's also a place, too, where you see a lot of times with these camps, and especially this time of year, and we watch the rankings. I know they're not everything to you, but we're not as connected as you are. But you see guys go and fall because you see a guy they expected, like you said a little earlier, 6'5", 280. Well, shit, he's 6'2", and he's 260.
Yeah.
He's 3 inches shorter. He's 30 pounds lighter, or he's 20 pounds lighter. His arms aren't as long. And then we run him through the drills. He did good on his drills, but he's 6'2", 260. If he was 6'5", 280 running those drills like that, he'd be skyrocketing.
Oh, absolutely.
So let me ask this. You said what they're getting. They're getting a lot of good stuff, but what aren't they getting that some of the kids that you've taken that you've had to sit down and have conversations with and say, you're not going to get this at these camps?
They have to understand they're not – when they go to these camps, 9 times out of 10, they're not getting a here's how to play your position of football camp, okay? They're looking at you play this position, we're going to see how you play it and how well you play it. Now, that's not saying that the coaches and the people running the camp aren't going to give them some tips or some things that'll make them a little better and help them out in certain ways. But they're not, they're not going to go from the start, this is how we do our stance, this is how we do this is how we do that. Now, they may go over some of that so that they can understand what the individual is looking at. Okay, this is how we work with linebackers, or this is how we work with DBs, and this is what we look for. Now, not all coaches look for that, and I've heard coaches tell you do it your way, because when it comes down to it in August, September, and October, you got to do it the way your coach is telling you to do it. Because if you turn around and tell them, Coach Huxtable was one of the best of them. He was the linebackers coach at NC State for several years. Coach Huxtable said, I can tell you all I want to here. He said, but if you go back to your coach and tell him that Coach Huxtable told you to do it this way, I'm going to tell him you lied. He said, you got to do what your coach is expecting of you and play the game the way they're looking to get it done. So he said, because I'm not going to tell you that our way is any better than anybody else's. He said, you just have to do that. So if you're going into that camp expecting to learn how to play, Virginia Tech's defense, you probably be better off taking that money and buying, Frank Beamer's special teams book or something like that. But I mean, you're not going to learn the complete specifics of a position or anything at those camps. They're going to learn what you know about playing a position, playing leverage, playing the game, and how you do it.
If you want to play backer, you're better off buying Bud Foster's coaching Bible than you are going to a camp.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're at a good part here. We're going to take a brief break and have a message from our digital partner.
All right, so we're back, guys. Now, Robbie, something I didn't know this. Well, maybe I did know this, but I just didn't remember us talking about it. But you and obviously guys you coach with, you guys have actually evaluated for schools, correct? Is this something that is pretty common among the high school coaches at P5 camps, or is it more relationships building between the schools and the head coaches of those schools?
I think it's got a lot to do with the relationships you build with some of the coaches, and they understand the trust and how you're coaching things and what you're doing and things of that nature. A big part of it anyway, a big part of the whole process is that relationship you build with those coaches. If those coaches are evaluating your players and you're telling them they're this and they're that, and then they get to the school or they get to these camps and they don't back that up, then there's a question about, what you're portraying to them. But when you're constantly telling these coaches that are recruiting these kids what kind of kids they are, I tell kids all the time, when we're doing recruiting stuff, we're talking to the coaches, I'm not going to lie to the coach. I'm going to tell them the truth. If you're 100% motor kid, but you're not the greatest technical player or things of that nature, I'm going to let them know that. If you're a craptastic individual that doesn't want to listen and doesn't want to follow the coaching, but a spectacular athlete, I'm going to tell the coach that, because I'm not going to have, and it sounds kind of personal, but I'm not going to have my reputation ruined by sending a kid out there that I praised and said was so great, and then he turned around and not be that player. I mean, I'm going to be honest with them.
Yeah, you're putting your name on it. You're gonna tell the truth.
Absolutely, and coaches see those things, and they understand that. They start to see that the players you're sending them and what their reputation is and how you evaluate things. And I mean, I've had some situations where I've had coaches that allow me to give my input on players and things of that nature. Now, by no means am I doing, the recruiting for them or anything like that. But I mean, I've had coaches that have allowed me to give my input on what the players at those camps, how they performed and what they did well and how they could improve if they would fit into the situation. Especially one coach in particular that I worked with, I knew, and he knew that we had worked for so long together that we actually ran a lot of the same drills and everything at practices. And he knew he knew that I knew exactly what to look for in these drills and the things he was doing. So he felt comfortable with me running a drill just like he would, his own GA or things of that nature. So, I mean, that kind of worked out, and it was very useful at the camp.
So let's talk about the evaluation. So we can start when you're looking for something. We're gonna start with my bread and butter. Offensive line, defensive line. When you're evaluating those positions at a camp, what type of things are you looking for from the defensive line? What type of things are you looking for from the offensive line?
All right. How long does this podcast last?
Don't matter.
As long as you want it to.
All right.
Take a sip there. Take a sip. Everybody take a sip.
Yeah. Got to wet the whistle here to get this one going.
There we go.
The camps, like we said before, you got a bunch of different kinds of camps. The big, like those big VTO camps and things like that, 9 times out of 10, all they're going to get out of that most of the time is your combine stuff. You will get some that get later enough that you'll get some one-on-ones with some offensive linemen and some DBs and receivers and linebackers and running backs, things of that nature. But a lot of those super camps or the regional camps and stuff, you're going to have anywhere from 800 to 1,000 kids show up. It's hard to get all of those kids in a 2.5-hour period through all of that stuff and give any of them a chance to do a one-on-one.
Yeah,
your smaller camps and your more focused sponsored camps, I guess you could call them. You're going to see one-on-ones and things like that. Now, like you said, the bread and butter, the O-line, the D-line. I mean, I played O-line through school. The vast majority of my experience in coaching has been with offensive and defensive line. I've coached linebackers, DBs, receivers, tight ends, running backs. I've coached all of those at some point, but my biggest thing is O-line and D-line. Now, what you'll notice a lot of these camps, when it gets to one-on-ones, there's no helmets, there's no shoulder pads. Now, a lot of these camps now are going to where they can use helmets, and a lot of that is on the new rules with the concussions and things of that nature. But a lot of times before, there were no helmets involved in it. Mm-hmm. So in that case, you get a lot of pass rushing, a lot of rushing, and things of that nature, and it's going to take part of that. I don't want to say part of the evaluation out of it, but it's going to take certain parts of things out because these players are going to be conscious of where the other player is and where their opponent is and things like that, because they don't want to take a chance of getting hurt, and we understand that. So a lot of the offensive linemen and defensive linemen, the first thing you're looking for is their get off, their footwork, offensive line and defensive line handwork, things of that nature. It's really about that first step. You can tell a lot about a pass rusher and an offensive lineman by that first step. If that first step for the defensive lineman is quick, fast in the ground, and he closes the gap tremendously between him and the offensive lineman right at the snap of the ball. There's no delay, things of that nature. He can probably beat that guy. He can get in. The defensive lineman, if he can close the gap, he gets an advantage. The offensive lineman, if he can get that step back, his feet aren't too wide, he's got good balance, and he keeps that separation, he's got a better chance of winning that thing. So that first step is huge. And then after that first step, you're looking a lot at where those hands are being placed. If the offensive lineman's hands are close together, he's got good extension, good separation, and keep that defensive lineman away from him, I mean, he's got a good chance to keep making steps and keeping that separation. That defensive lineman can close that separation, get his hands on the lineman on the offensive line where he can move him and control the situation, he's got a good chance of winning that. And for us, a lot of it ends there.
Okay.
Some of the kids, you'll see a lot of those one-on-ones. You know, you've evaluated the first step and all of this. The offensive lineman clearly won it, but the defensive lineman still gets to the bag or the barrel or whatever that's the simulated quarterback bag. Okay, good job, kid. Let's see what he does. Did he continue to push hard and fast through all of that? Got to the barrel, sprinted all the way back to his spot. Okay, he's a hard-working kid. He's tremendous. Now, granted, it took him 4.5 seconds to get to the barrel. The offensive line probably beat him.
Yeah.
4.5 seconds for the quarterback hadn't got the ball out. If
That's
he
all him.
Mahomes, they're in trouble to start with.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, if he's a 1.5 seconds and he's knocking that barrel down, then he's probably done some really good things there. So you just have to evaluate that. Now, what you're in the opposite situation is what you're looking for. If that kid, 3.5 seconds out, the offensive lineman's got separation and he just kind of gives it up and gets pushed around or pancaked and the offensive lineman's laying on top of it, then you're going to start kind of questioning, has that kid got the work ethic to continue to fight just in case the quarterback is holding the ball that long?
Yeah.
So the evaluation kind of goes that way with those guys.
So you're looking for a lot of the initial stuff, and then you're looking for kind of effort.
Absolutely.
After that point.
Now, I mean, when it comes to full pads and things like that, things can change in a split second. You could have a great first step, and that offensive lineman could have an amazing upper body strength that just, even though you've closed that separation, he can latch on and extend it out and take the separation back. I mean, there's things like that, but you're not going to see a lot of that in the one-on-ones without pads and things of that nature. And then here in the last year, of course, well, they didn't have camps then, but they got because of COVID, but they got to a point at one time where a lot of folks, they had to have pads in between them, more of the safety issue things and stuff like that. And it's really hard to evaluate the continuance of a lot of that stuff with those pads too.
I hear you. Do you ever see, like, for example, you're mentioning the offensive line, and I know I've seen videos where the offensive lineman is celebrating because he's thrown the guy.
Yeah. Great.
You look where he threw the guy, well, you just killed your quarterback and his ACL's done and you have no team. So does it as a coach, when you see especially offensive defensive line drills because they are so focused, is it ever something the coaches, the P5, the head coaches or the positional coaches who are working with you looking at, like, this guy thought he won that set. He's celebrating, pimp walking, acting like he's the shit. And that coach is sitting over here like, son, no, you don't need to do that. Is that
you just got 10 yards and you killed your quarterback?
Absolutely. No, it's just like we said with the defensive lineman, is he did all that and he got slapped around for 4.5 seconds. Then the offensive lineman's kind of like, all right, I've whipped him enough. He spins back, runs off, and blasts the barrel. And now he thinks he's awesome. Well, 5 seconds ago, you would have been awesome. But 4.5 seconds to get there didn't do you much good. Oh, that offensive lineman, the first step, he lost the separation. He took bad steps. His feet were real wide. The only choice he had was to grab hold and, sumo him to the ground.
Yep.
Okay, well, more than likely, hold, they're going to see it because he's going to get to a side with both hands out. Yep. He thinks, okay, he never got to the quarterback. I took him out. Or he comes down hard inside, and the defensive lineman is laid out so far that he just slams him down. He slammed him right through the quarterback's knees. He thinks he's done something, but the coach is going, well, if you'd have taken your step and if you'd have put your hand placement right and done all that to start with, he'd have never beat you there anyway. But sometimes that'll show you how the kid is unfortunately, it'll show you how the kid is coached if they think that's doing what they need to be doing.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's definitely an evaluation tool.
If you think you're winning a rep doing that, then the coaching definitely ain't there, or at least you're not absorbing it.
Ooh. Yeah. And I'm guessing that goes into things. All right, so let's jump off y'all's bread and butter. We talked about it for about 10 minutes. And let's move on to the next one. Now, offensive defensive line is easy. You got someone directly in front of you, things to look for.
Oh, yeah.
That's one we talked about was running back and linebackers. Robbie, when when these coaches are looking at running backs, what are they specifically looking for in camps? Because, again, like you've mentioned already, they're not in pads, they're not in helmets, they can't do everything, but what specifically are they looking for running backs?
Well, one thing you'll see a lot in camps, and we kind of touched at it earlier, is when they go in, they're going to separate them by position. And you're going to go off with your offensive line group. You're going to go off with your defensive line group. You're going to go off with your running back groups, your linebacker groups. Each player, when they come into this thing, more than likely is going to have a position that they're working. Most of these guys, that they come in and they're going to work two positions, it's going to be notified early that they're working two positions.
Okay.
And a lot of times the two positions are going to be on the same side of the ball. So you may have one kid that's working linebacker and strong safety. Very seldom do you see a kid that's going to come in to a camp and work linebacker and running back or something of that. You may catch a linebacker that is going to do some stuff at a camp as a long snapper or a special teams guy, something like that. But it's hard to go in and do the drills on both sides like that. Okay. You may get a kid that does linebacker and strong safety because at his high school, he may be, that weak side linebacker that's actually playing a strong safety position. Gotcha. It's kind of weird in those situations. But they split them up like that. And you're going to do drills and things specific to that position. So you're going to see in those drills by position what those kids do, what those athletes do in run situations or read situations, all of those type things. When you get to these one-on-ones, 95% of the time, it's a passing situation. Okay. So that makes when you start talking about running backs and linebackers, that makes things a lot different in the evaluation process, simply because, as a running back, you're going to have play action, and then sometimes you're going to have free release type routes.
Yeah.
When you're in that one-on-one situation, you're still going to see some play action to routes, or you still see some free release routes, things like that. But you're not going to see that running back in a one-on-one situation step up in the play action and then chip the rushing edge.
Yeah.
You're not going to see that in one-on-ones. You're going to see him fake that and then run his choice route over the middle against a linebacker. You're going to see him run the free release bubble or swing out of the backfield, or the wheel route, which is wheel route. I have nightmares about wheel routes.
I love wheel routes.
I do too. As if I want to call an offense and send a guy out there, I do. But there's only so many times you can tell a linebacker. Only so many times you can tell him in a day to watch the wheel route before maybe he might watch it. I'm going to get asked before the game. My head coach is going to ask me as a defensive coordinator, "Hey, we're going to cover the wheel route tonight?" Probably not.
we gonna let one get by at least.
Oh yeah. We just have to hope that the running back does not catch very well.
There we go.
But unfortunately, most of the time, if a running back doesn't catch very well, where's he probably going to be? Linebacker. But again, I get sidetracked.
That's all right. You're still getting good information, man. That's all that matters.
The one-on-ones with running backs and linebackers are going to be pass situations. So me being a defensive coordinator for the last several years, I hated the parts of some of those one-on-ones because my linebackers they know right off the bat I'm in a one-on-one situation and a pass situation. So I have to make sure that they're still taking their what I call foot fire, still taking proper steps where they're initially reading.
Yeah.
Okay. And that part is going to be evaluated. You're going to see coaches looking at that, and they want to know, is that kid going to be reading on the play, even if he knows it's 3rd and 17, And the scouting report says they throw 97% of the time on third and anything 7+.
Yep.
He's going to pass. You still better be foot fire and ready to read because they might run a draw for 18 yards on third.
You better be ready for that hokey quarterback power on third and 17.
So, I mean, you've got to be ready for it because, yes, it's 97% of the time, but there's 3% of the time that they're not. In those one-on-ones, you're gonna get, especially younger kids. They're not making that foot fire step. They're not making that read step. They immediately eyes go to the running back. They're running downhill towards the running back, which they juked in a heartbeat, and it's bad news. Yeah. But that's where that evaluation comes in. With that running back going out, you're looking for his route. Is he going too deep in the bubble? Is he running too flat? Is he gaining ground before he's supposed to? When he's running his choice route or things of that nature, is the running back going in and forcing the linebacker to make a decision of which way to go so he can break his choice route to create separation? The same thing with the linebacker. Is he closing ground too early and taking the field advantage away from himself?
Mm-hmm. Losing leverage.
Yeah. Yeah, you watching the running back and not paying attention to anything else, because a lot of times, as we know, football, the quarterback might be reading that linebacker. If he puts his eyes directly on the running back, takes off down in there, and he's got a bead on that running back and not making his reads and keys, that inside receiver might be coming in and setting up where he left. You may be getting a slant or a shoot. I can't even think of the name of it right now. Too late at night. I'm lost. Working on my master's for my special education degree, and it's got my mind blown right now. I'm losing words. They're running hooks or comebacks and things, and they're sitting down where the linebacker left.
Yep.
It shows that they're not making their reads, because he's taking off out there to the back because it's the only thing in that drill that's moving.
Yeah.
But you have to show that you're still making your angle, your 45-degree angle or whatever. You're covering your zone if that's what the coverage is, or you're playing your man to where it is.
Or like a dig if you're trying to find the wide receiver tries to find the soft spot there.
Absolutely.
So you're saying a big piece when doing, especially on running back linebacker drills, especially for the linebacker, is having the mentality of, I don't give a damn, it's a running play. Do everything you normally do, because the guy looking at you over there, that's what he wants to see. If you're doing all this stuff, he starts saying, okay, this kid's got a head on his shoulders. This kid's listening. This kid's understanding how to be coached by his high school coach to say, okay, I've got to do my read. I've got to step. Do I step into the gap? Do I step out? And then where do I go? Now, from the running back side, you've mentioned routes. Obviously, they're looking at hands. But I'm assuming as much as leverage it is for the linebacker, it's the running back when they get that ball one-on-one, understanding the leverage against the linebacker, right?
Absolutely.
Again, I'm assuming it's more heady things. You're sitting here with it. All right, there's no one blocking out there. You're going to run that way. I'm sure there are times where you probably sit there and say, well, of course, there's no one blocking out there. You've got an angle on them. You're going to get 15 yards.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen every time.
No.
Because you've got a shitty wide receiver who don't know how to block, and the quarterback's coming in. You can't go that way every time.
Who decided it would be easier if he didn't block. I just whipped a decent linebacker because I created good separation, and I can angle away from him.
Yep.
But there's Cam Chancellor standing back there at safety that says you're not getting any further than this. I mean, that's a big difference. He's going to lower the boom, and the Legion ain't going to be there to help you. I mean, that's pretty simple. But I mean, you as that running back, they're looking at, yes, he charged that backer, and he pressed a certain way and got a release, so he got the linebacker to play his outside half. He turned to the inside over the middle of the field, catches the ball. How is he? What is he doing? Where is he catching the ball? Is he catching it with his hands? Is he catching it, underneath into his chest? Is he protecting the ball? Things of that nature. How he's tucking the ball away? Is he turning upfield and going? Is he making an angle? different things like that. They're looking forward to figure out, and the thing is, like sometimes they'll tell you beforehand, okay, you've got a single high safety over the top that if you turn straight up the middle of the field, he's going to be in your mouth. He's going to knock you out. So you better take the angle towards the side where the corner got cleared or something of that nature. Just like the thing, they're one-on-ones, but did we ever, they look at that linebacker, did we ever tell you it was man coverage? No. So you went off blazing to the running back. You had him covered, but the hook in the middle caught the ball. They caught the seam over the top because you didn't come to your zone. We wanted you to play the zone and come down to, well, I thought it was man to man. Well, you should be finding out what the play is beforehand. And coaches will do things like that to get that evaluation. Because a lot of times you'll get, were you playing man to man? Yes, sir, I was. Did we tell you it was man? No. What should you have done? I should have dropped into my zone, kept my eyes on the running back, and looked for the inside receiver coming into my zone. Okay, they just did a self-evaluation right there. The kid knows what to do, but thinking that it was one-on-one, he did what he had to. And now, all of a sudden, I've got the evaluation of what he's going to do in one-on-one situation and what he's going to do on the other one. So, I mean, they're giving the coaches the information there, and the coach starts to see their process of how they're thinking. And it really goes a long way into evaluating those things. The same thing with the running back. I mean, he's coming out and, well, did we tell you that y'all were going to be one-on-one? He didn't come down at you, then what should you have done? You should have turned it into a wheel and went on upfield. Or you should have stopped at a certain spot and waited for the screen to come back in. However they suggest that you run that particular route.
Yeah.
So,
like a swing, like knowing where the blocks are in the alley.
Absolutely. So a lot of that goes on, and they can just ask a simple question, and it gives them a lot of it.
So, again, a lot of the stuff for especially running backs, linebackers, because there's a lot more going on than just you got to go beat that guy. On the defensive line. It's more of they get to see the processing. They get to see the mental aptitude of these kids where, can you catch the ball? Great. Did you catch it? Did you tuck it right? And then did you know where to go appropriately when what play we called on defense for you to see?
Yep.
Now, what's next, Brian?
All right, up next we're gonna do little wide receiver and DB. Let's have a little fun with this one.
The wide receivers and DBs are.
I got a question.
Yeah, man.
Is this the biggest shit talking groups of all of them?
Yes, without a doubt.
Just needed confirmation.
Yeah,
not even close. Yes.
Now, look, I mean, if some of my guys that I've coached over the years listen to see this thing, which I hope they do, I hope y'all get 10,000 views on this thing. I don't know that you having me as a guest here is going to draw quite the numbers that Daryl Tapp did, but you never know.
It's all love.
I'm not that cool. I have people obviously that I've fooled enough to think they know that I know what I'm talking about. Daryl Tapp does know what he's talking about, so y'all did get there. But your wide receivers and your DBs, 9 times out of 10 are going to be they're going to talk to trash now. That's where it's going to be. If you want to go to a camp and you want to see the talking back and forth and the competition and then somebody backing it up and somebody getting, say, punked down and things like that, go to the wide receiver DB competitions and just watch it because it is what it is. But along with that, you're going to go in there and you're going to, in some cases, you're going to see a lot more of the mental aspects to the things in those one-on-ones at that wide receiver and DBs if you catch the right wide receivers and DBs.
All right. So where do you want to start? You want to start with the wideout or you want to start with the DBs?
I'm going to start with the wideouts.
Okay.
A lot of your chess game is going to happen there because what they're going to see is they're going to start seeing that, what each other do in different situations, how each other play, and they're going to try to take advantage of certain things that each of them do and things of that nature. Now, wide receiver, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to walk out there as us coaches is evaluating these wide receivers, we're looking probably for three things.
All right.
Okay. We're probably looking at their initial footwork. Okay. At the snap of the ball, of their feet staying in place and dancing and doing all this unnecessary movement. I mean, we've seen them. We've seen receivers at different levels. They run 10 yards. They never left the line. Okay. Then after that is their release, and then their route. Okay. So that footwork. Now, I'm not saying you can't take a step or two to get them to do, because that could be part of your release. You get that initial step wide to the boundary, initial step wide to the field to get that DB to try to turn his shoulders right then.
Yeah.
But that release, if it's a man coverage, is you trying to get him to overextend and punch early so you can get his hands down and get the advantage over it. If they're playing softer or if they're playing zone, so that what you're doing with the release is you're pressing a certain area. You may be pressing his outside shoulder to get him to flip his hips towards the sideline, and then you can cut underneath him to make him go all the way around. Get what I'm saying?
Yep.
Okay. You may press his inside shoulder to get him to open inside, and then you cut behind him and streak up the sideline vertically. You know, all of those are the releases and things like that. So you're looking immediate, and those wide receivers are going to look at those DBs and go, he really likes to flip his hips quick because he knows I'm excuse me.
Bless you. We can do that in post-production.
Because he knows that's awesome. Because he knows that, you know, he knows I'm faster than him vertically, so he's going to flip quick. Things of that nature.
Yeah.
So those are big things in those releases and stuff like that. And then the next thing that you want to look at with that receiver is their route. You know, if he's supposed to be, if he's get off coverage and he's supposed to be running a slant, is he running up, sticking his foot in the ground and taking the slant right now from 5 yards to 6.5 yards? Or is he kind of rounding it off at 5 and making it to about 8? Is he really running a post instead of a slant?
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the depth of things, because if you're running against a typical one high safety look, you know, and we want you to run a slant because we ran the bubble with the back behind you, the linebacker is dropping 45 from 4.5 or 5 yards to about 7 or 8. Okay. If you run that slant from 5 to 6.5, you're going to stay underneath that linebacker, which gives you an advantage. If you run it too far high, that linebacker can cut you off.
Yep. Okay.
Well, regardless of the linebacker, if you cut that thing and you get to that 6.5 and then you build to the 7, you're above the middle linebacker by about 2 yards and still under the safety. If you cheated it too much and you got to that 8.5 yards, you may be running into that free safety that's not dropping so hard because the routes are short. So it's all about how they're running that route and where that spacing comes in. Because, I mean, a matter of 3 or 4 inches can mean you catching the ball or the defender catching the ball.
Yep.
So those routes have to be crisp and things like that.
Robbie, let me ask you this: do you care so much with the wide receiver when you're evaluating them, the catch itself?
I do not. Now, I don't get a lot of chance to evaluate receivers in a lot of these camps. But I don't take a lot on that, simply because 9 times out of 10 these kids are at camp and they're, you know, this kid is from Rose High School and the next kid is from, you know, Cape Fear High School and the next kid is from Havelock High School and the quarterback is from, you know, Meadowbrook in Richmond.
Yeah.
Well, he's never played with these 3 kids. The timing's different. This quarterback may be left-handed compared to all 3 of those receivers. Quarterbacks are right-handed.
Different spin,
That kid can go out and get 10 passes thrown to him, and he catch 2 out of the 10 and I could still evaluate him as an exceptional receiver because I've seen on tape that this kid catches 85% of the balls thrown to him. But a different quarterback's going to make a different altogether in his evaluation just because the ball may be thrown different. Now, granted, they're going to have to get used to a different quarterback sooner or later.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a lot of reps to get through that.
Yeah.
He may take 10 reps at this camp as a receiver and may see 5 different quarterbacks. So the fact that the reception or the balls being caught or things like that in that thing is not the biggest part of my evaluation by any means. My evaluation looking at his footwork, his hands. Now, when he does catch it, what does he do with the ball? Is he running down the field like primetime Deion Sanders with it out in his hand like this and high-stepping? Or has he got it tucked away to make sure that the safety is not going to knock it out of his hands or it's not going to get stripped out, like my man for the Buffalo Bills years ago by what's his name in the Super Bowl? Leon Lett run on
Leon Lett, yeah.
Leon Lett run down the sideline.
Like he come down there and took it out of his hand. Yeah. I mean, is he putting the ball away? Is he doing what he's supposed to with it? Is he giving a good burst effort afterwards when he catches it? Yes, you can evaluate those things. But, I mean, if he doesn't catch a ball, I'm not killing him on that. The hell, the ball might have been 6 feet over his head because that quarterback's used to throwing to 6'4" wide receivers. And this kid isn't 6'4" like we told him he was. He's only 6'1". That part of the evaluation is not huge to me. Which I'm sure when we get to the next part of this thing where we talk about the quarterbacks, I'll have a little more to say about that as well. But
well, let's go to second half. And obviously, so y'all know, if you're wondering where this man's credentials are, Robbie coached Cornell Powell, who was down at Clemson. So before we jump to DBs, I want to ask one question. You take Cornell to his first camp like this. What was his first thought? Because Cornell, again, got highly rated, goes to Clemson, wins a national title, gets drafted essentially to the best offense in the NFL, where he's probably going to do exceptionally well with the Chiefs. But what was his mentality going in there the first time compared to when you guys were going to those junior days when he was on everybody's radar?
Cornell just look. I love the kid to death, and
clearly you do. You're at a draft party.
Yeah, he had this aura about himself, and it was well deserved because he was 9 times out of 10 when he stepped on the field. It didn't matter who else was on the field; he was the best athlete out there, plain and simple. And Cornell probably a little different than, it's hard to compare him to Contavious because Contavious was a defensive lineman and things like that. But when it comes to the situation and the camps and the things of that nature, it was a much different story with Cornell than it was Contavious. We got Contavious in there. We started getting him to camps, and it was kind of reintroducing him.
Yeah,
we're just finally finding out about it. Okay, when we got Cornell to those camps between his sophomore and junior year, so the junior camps where he was really being recruited, everybody knew who he was.
Oh, okay.
The reason they knew who he was is because he was showing up, showing out, and showing off every game that they came and watched Contavious. So they knew who Cornell Powell was then.
Gotcha.
I mean, that kind of helped boost some things. Cornell, if I remember correctly, Cornell got his very first offer from Ole Miss on the night of the 3rd round. So the day after Thanksgiving, the 3rd round playoff game against our biggest rival, D.H. Conley, in 2013. Well, the week before that, we had played at Cape Fear. And Cornell, there was the defensive coordinator for LSU was there.
Was that Chavis?
Chavis, yeah.
Chavis? Oh, shit.
And then the defensive line coach, which was Lane Kiffin's younger brother for Ole Miss.
Yep.
Both of them were watching Contagious. And, I mean, of course, Contagious was a senior.
Yeah.
He made his commitment. He was very much being recruited. And Cornell goes out the first game, scores 3 touchdowns. He's by far the player of the game. It was not Cape Fear. It was – I can't remember.
Was it the old Red Sox player? Was it Troy what's his name's team?
I can't tell you this. It was the team that we played had 2 future college All-Americans on the team. They had a kid named Gilliard that played center for 3 years for the University of Georgia. He was a defensive lineman for them. And then what was the other kid's name? He's an outside linebacker now for the Titans, and he played at Boston College. Anyway, both of those guys are on the team. We played them, and we were an 11 seed in the playoffs. They were number 3.
Does Pine Forest sound it?
Pine Forest. That's exactly
Harold Landry.
Harold Landry. That's it. Harold Landry and Gilliard. Gilliard played defensive lineman for him. He was a monster. We told our offensive coordinator from the start, you ain't running nothing inside until late in the third quarter. The first ball was a trap to a guy, and that cat ate it like Pac-Man. And I told our head coach at the time, I was like, look, we're gonna have to put the ball in the air. I was like, we're gonna get the third down. We're gonna have to throw it to Cornell. He'll score on the third play of the game, but we got to put the ball in the air. We got to make these kids run side to side. Third play of the game, Cornell scores a 47-yard touchdown because I knew what was about to happen. Anyway, they're there watching Contagious. Cornell, in his mind, he's always been the best player on the field at all times. So when that offense goes out there, he's got to take over. Not only does he know he's the best player on the field, in his mind, that they've got 2 or 3 DBs that are fairly highly recruited. And he says, if I go out and I show what I can do against these guys to these coaches sitting here, that it's going to put me on the map. Mm-hmm. When I go to camps, they're going to know who I am beforehand.
Yep.
And that's what he did. He went out there and did it. Well, at the end of the game, of course, Pine Forest coach comes across and tells us, y'all ain't got but one All-American on that team, and that's number 3. That's the wide receiver, because your defensive end didn't do nothing against us. Well, they ran 64 plays, and 57 of them were opposite of Contagious Street. I wouldn't run in his ass either. Little did they know that the kid, defensive end on the other side, outside of Cornell Powell, was probably the best football player that I've ever coached. He went to Campbell University, played fullback, and then defensive end. So, but we know about Contagious Street and Cornell Powell. But Christian Pleasant, it was one of the best football players I ever coached, but he was undersized.
Yeah.
And that goes to the camp thing with the size and things of that nature. He was absolutely incredible. And he shut the game down and made it look that way. But anyway, we're in that game, and Coach Chavis and Coach Kiffin are standing there, and they told Cornell, that's an amazing game. We're gonna take your information down. We'll be watching you, things of that nature. Because Cornell at this point is just a 10th grader. He's just a sophomore. Said, make sure you get in touch with us. We'll get you to camp. We'll get you talking to our position coaches, things like that. Well, Cornell, being the kid he is, especially at that point, he goes, you think that was something? He goes, come to the game next week. He goes, you thought those 3 were impressive. I'm going to score 5 next week. God, that's just Cornell Powell.
Yeah.
Coach Kiffin said, all right, bet. He goes, you score 5 next week, I will get you that offer. Let's just say after that next game, that next week, Coach Kiffin was on the phone at that time with Hugh Freeze going, hey, we got to get this kid an offer. He scored 8 touchdowns in 2 games because he scored them 5 against Conley, and we won that game and moved on.
So with Cornell, because
you put a bar out there, he's gonna jump over it.
Oh, absolutely.
For Cornell, having Kentavious, having someone that highly rated, they show up, he shows out. He's not coming out of nowhere. He's going into camp.
He's going up
as the stud. He's the guy
going up at these camps. They know who he is when he walks in the door.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So let me ask this, because obviously you saw him walk into camps. What are DBs having to do? Cornell walks into a camp. He's the 5th-rated receiver in the country. He's got offers from 30 institutions. What goes through their minds?
DBs are doing one of 2 things.
What's that?
If there's DBs are highly rated, they're getting in line. They're going, I want Cornell Powell. I'm going to shut him down. Didn't work very often, but that's their mindset.
Okay.
Then you got the other part of them that look at that line and go, there's Cornell Powell. He's 1, 2, 3, 4. He's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hey, man, you want to get in front of me? They're trying to get out of that place because they know that they're good DBs, but that cat's going to make everybody look bad, and I can't afford to look bad at camp.
Okay.
So I got to get out of that.
So you got prime time, and you got some people that are thinking a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now you're always gonna have that one. You're always gonna have that one DB. I'm the best DB out here. Put me against anybody, and everybody scorches that cat because he's never right. I'm gonna press everybody, and he's slow as you know what, and it just don't work. But I mean, the DBs, what you got to look at is that you've got to see them understand, okay, if I know I'm going against the primetime man in this camp, am I going to step up there? Now, the coach may tell you, you're going to press man right here. Okay, if I'm going to press man, what do I have to do to take advantage of this? Is this cat going to beat me physically right from the play? Or is he a finesse guy that's going to beat me with his footwork and get vertical, things of that nature, and then burn me with his speed? You're gonna see those guys start to process that, and it all goes back to the same thing: their hand placement, their footwork, and the way they cover routes, the way they close separation when it's created, and things like that. That's what you have to evaluate there, and that's evaluated in different ways, whether it's press man or off man to zone type coverage. I mean, when you get into that off man playing against that receiver, you instantly create separation. So during that play, are you able to close that separation when you see that receiver make that slant? Are you able to close that separation when he makes a double move to the slant? You come down and he goes vertical and beats you. Do you have the speed to catch up with it? Those types of things. And a lot of that can go into how that DB processes it and how that DB, plays everything particularly. We had a DB a couple years ago. He's at Randolph-Macon now.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to promote the game, the greatest rivalry in the South, whatever. But I'm pretty sure that happens every year, and I think next year it's going to be at Hampton-Sydney. If anybody wants to go out and check it out, it should be a heck of a game, right?
I'll be there.
All right, I probably will be too. And I'm not above a cheap promotion here. If y'all haven't figured that out yet, I don't like to promote many things here. Anyway, the kid was undersized, but an exceptional DB. And one thing I always noticed about him when he went to camps was he was going to make sure that he found out who the exceptional receivers were in that particular camp. And he was going to find out what they did best. Were they a speed receiver that was getting vertical and beating people there? Were they somebody that took advantage of the separation and did well on the slants or the things like that? and he would play. He would set himself up. If he was given the opportunity, he would set himself up to play them the best that he could possibly play to make himself look the best he could. You know, if he had a receiver that he knew was going to play vertical and run fast and was faster than him, he played softer man. And he knew exactly when to turn. He wasn't going to let the receiver force him. He had in his mind, he had set his game plan that he knew what he was going to do. And he could do that with watching that receiver 3 plays. He knew what he wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And that just come from his preparation. And rarely did he get beat in any of those situations in camp. He could come up and he knew that receiver was going to – maybe that receiver was faster than him and everything like that, but he knew that the receiver didn't get a good release off the line. So he'd press it and beat him right there and never have to worry about the speed.
Yep.
The kid, that was just what he did. And coaches evaluated that and saw that. And they said, okay, yes, he is 5'9" and 3/4, but he's got a 68.5-inch reach. His arms are long. He can tie his shoes standing straight up. His arms are so long. I mean, his body length was freakish.
Yeah. And he can diagnose.
Play with anybody because of his intellect. But his measurables, like his height and things like that, they'd go, I don't know. They would question it. But then they'd watch him on the field. And that's where that camp comes in. Well, you can look at these little things of his height and go, yeah, he's not big enough to play this type of football. But then when you watch him play, you go, well, he makes up for it in other ways.
Yeah.
So that's where those evaluations and things come in, because he could close any gap, and he could take away the gap from the start if he didn't want you to have one. And he had makeup speed to take away the vertical if he got beat. I mean, he was just that type of player. And I mean, it's showing now. He started 6 of the 7 games in Macon this year as a true freshman.
Oh wow,
in DB. So
let me ask you this, Robbie. You know, we've been going through DB here. It looks like DB from an evaluation standpoint, it seems to be like you could kind of get the most evaluation out of that position at these types of camps. Would that be true?
I think you can get the most evaluation at these camps from in the wide receiver and defensive back kind of groups.
Okay.
I really do, because you get to see that competition more. And I mean, let's face it, most of them, they don't like to be hit, touched, pushed around and stuff to start with. So not having pads on really doesn't affect them that much.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. I mean, wide receiver or DB. It's a finesse game. It gets physical with them when they get to the middle and have to deal with that strong safety or the free safety or the linebackers and things like that. But in the one-on-ones, that stuff's not there. So, I mean, you really get to evaluate how they position themselves, how they do their footwork, how they do the things that they do. And that's probably the best time to do it in those situations. Now, once again, when it comes to the ball coming in, like we talk about the running backs and the receivers, I don't put a lot of focus on the catch every time, simply because it may be coming from a different quarterback that they're not used to. It may not be in a placement they're not used to, and that takes time to build.
Gotcha.
But, I mean, that's just – yeah, I would definitely say that that's one of the best places to see those.
Let's move on to the franchise player, the quarterback. How are quarterbacks evaluated in these camps?
Now, I'm going to tell you what. As I told you, with my coaching experience and all those things, now I did work with quarterbacks at 2 camps, I think, simply because of the fact that we took multiple coaches. We had multiple coaches at different positions, and I would volunteer to go somewhere else. I'm the kind of coach, in my mind, I don't have to stay in one place to learn something. I can go learn something at any position that I can take back, whether I coach them or not. I can give it to our coach on our staff, something I may have learned from there. I'll go to any place there if it's going to help. I worked with quarterbacks a couple of times. When you go to these one-on-ones and the things like that, in my opinion, and from what I saw at those camps, there's very little evaluation going with the quarterbacks in those one-on-ones when they're throwing to the running backs and the receivers, simply because, again, the timing's different. The receivers are different. They may be running routes that quarterback is not used to, to throwing, things of that nature. Now, you can see a quarterback make amazing throws and good back shoulder throws, perfectly placed deep balls in some of those situations. You can see some good things, but I don't see where they evaluate and hold it against a lot of them in those because of those things.
You can tell the exceptional plays, but you can't really tell how bad a bad play is.
Absolutely.
So what's the way to go then? What's the way the quarterback besides tape?
With the quarterbacks, what they're looking at is when they catch that snap or they take that ball and they take their 3 steps before they throw it, what they're evaluating is their footwork, their ball placement, whether both hands are on the ball's high, secure, things of that nature. But they get a lot of that in those individual drills too. Okay. The drills before they get to the one-on-ones.
Yep.
The only thing they can really see, in my opinion, in the one-on-ones is that ball placement and their mechanics of everything. And you can evaluate a little bit there. But, I mean, you're not going to see timing. You're not going to see them reading a lot, especially with one-on-ones. Now, in the 7-on-7 things that you may see at some of the 7-on-7 camps, you can start to see them read, pull the safety off, things of that nature. But what you're going to see in those individual drills with the quarterbacks is when they take that 3-step drop, are their feet too wide to be able to throw with any power? Are their feet too close together to be able to get power onto the ball? Mm-hmm. When they sprint out or roll out, are they squaring their shoulders to the line of scrimmage to throw it? Back when I was playing ball and when I first started coaching, are they sprinting out and throwing it back across field? God help them, they shouldn't be doing that. Quarterbacks now, it's like that's what they want them to do. Patrick Mahomes and doggone Russell Wilson will run to the other doggone set of numbers. I don't know. But, I mean, that's a style of play that's coming now.
Oh, yeah. You can it used to be like breaking every rule if a quarterback turned their back to the rush. Yes. And now, I mean, Russell Wilson does it 5-6 times a game.
If you roll out and you pass the hash, you better not be throwing past the other hash. That's just forbidden. And now we'll roll to the numbers and throw to the other sideline. It'll be all right. But they've got quarterbacks that have that strength now.
Yes, they do. I mean,
so
more elusive, and they got bigger arms.
Yeah, absolutely. The quarterbacks are going to be evaluated more, in my mind, on that, in those individual drills and little bitty mechanic things during the one-on-ones, and not about their completion percentage and things of that nature. Because, I mean, they're just not used to the timing and the things of those receivers. It's hard to do. I mean, it's really hard to do.
So if you get a mechanic issue where that throwing motion is way too slow or way too long, you might see something
you
like
gonna
that.
know it then.
Yeah,
because that's when that slant turns into the post, because you got to wait to come from here and drop all the way down and come over the top rather than here back and throw. I mean, it makes a world of difference in the timing and things of that nature.
Yep.
Well, so I'm just going to guess on this and then we'll move on. But I'm guessing with the quarterbacks, it's going to be the actual film where they're playing week to week. And is what I see in camp here, he has good footwork, good placement, good arm motion. Is he doing that when there's 6 guys in front of him about to kill him?
Absolutely.
And if he's taking it here to here, then it's like now we cooking.
Yeah, what it comes down to is it's a camp. You have to be able to take what you can get from the camp out of it. And you can't expect to come into a camp with nobody ever heard your name and walk out of there being the number 1 prospect on their list, because they're not going to see everything in a camp. It's going to be a combination of how you perform at that camp, the things that you show, the film that you put out, the consistent numbers and statistics you put up. It's a combination of all those things. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, the camp is an opportunity for you to show off the things that you know you can do well right then and there. But you have to understand that some of the things they're not going to see at those camps. just like we have to understand as coaches that there's just some things we aren't going to see at that camp.
Okay.
There's just some things that they're not going to learn at it too.
All right, so let me ask this, Robbie. You've been an evaluator there. When are they asking you and talking to you about what you're seeing on these individual drills or one-on-ones? Is it something that the camp's over and everybody's getting together, you're taking your notes, or is it, when is it?
A lot of, like we said before, when they come in, there's a lot of that registration time period at the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. As they're coming in and they're getting stretched, they're getting warmed up, they're doing all this. They're working with the strength and conditioning staff, things like that, to get warm, and we want them sweating. We want them warm, broke in, sweating, loose, ready to do everything is when they give your best performance.
Okay.
So they've got that stuff. They're going to do dynamic stretching and mobility and all that stuff before they ever do that testing. They're going to run, a half mile before they ever get that testing started. So they're going to be nice and warm and ready to go. Well, as they're coming in, and in the cases that I remember of working with them, the kids are coming in, and I'm standing there talking to the position coach. Okay, I was at one of the camps at NC State. I'm standing there with the position coach. And as the kids are coming in, he'll tell me, oh, that's, so-and-so. We're recruiting him. He's a 3-star defensive end from such and such high school. We think he's about 6'3", 245 pounds, whatever. We really want to make sure we take a look at him. And then you see him as he checks in, he gets his jersey or his compression shirt or whatever. It's got a number on it, or the banner it's got a number on it, or it's got a number written on his arm, whatever. So you start to look at that number, and and it's highlighted on the sheet that you may have or whatnot. And the guy that they're looking at. Well, they come in, they do all their testing, they do all that stuff, and we're talking about that. So then after they do all their testing, they do all that, they get broken into their specific position drills. Okay, now one of the last camps I worked there, that was myself, the position GA, and then 2 current players.
Okay.
And what we did was we had, 20, 25, 30 defensive linemen at the camp. So what we did was we split them by groups. Okay. So if you're a rising freshman, you go over here with player number 1. If you're a rising sophomore, you go here with player number 2. If you're a rising junior, you go right here with, Coach Compton. If you're a rising senior, you go right over here with the GA. And, they split them up that way. Some of them split them up different ways. You're a defensive end, you go over here. You're a 3 technique, you go here. You're a nose, you go here.
Gotcha.
For this particular one, the defensive line coach went through. He goes, give me you 4 guys, you go with that guy. You 5 guys go with player number 2. I want so-and-so, 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 and so-and-so with Coach Compton, and this guy, and this guy with the GA. Well, when you really looked at it, they had the younger kids with the players, and then they had the kids that they were actively recruiting or could be recruiting or things like that with me and the GA.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because the player, while they know the drills, they know the information, they know the things like that, they may not be able to see certain things to evaluate the way that myself or the GA may be able to do. So as we're going through the drills, we're seeing things. Okay, so I'm putting the kids through the drills, and I'm seeing their first step. I'm seeing how they're doing this, how they're doing that. And, the defensive line coach is standing right there. Maybe the head coach is there. Maybe the recruiting coordinator has walked over and seeing that. But most of those coaches are moving around. At that particular time, the defensive line coach that I was working with, he was the recruiting coordinator. And he was also the run game coordinator for defense. So he was moving around to see linebackers and DBs. And, I mean, he's moving around to see things too. So he takes a lot of information from us of what we see in the evaluation. So we run through, say, 10, 15 minutes of drill, and we send the kids to go get water because it's 110 degrees on the turf.
Yep.
Well, he comes over and talks to us while those kids are running to get water. Okay, what do in this drill, what did you see? How did you feel about this? So we'll talk about it a little bit there.
Okay.
Well, we finish up those individual drills before we get ready to go to one-on-ones. Okay, guys, we finished all of our individual drills. What you're going to do, we're going to break it down. You're going to go down to the left corner of the end zone down there, and that's where we're going to do one-on-ones against the O-line. So they break down, take off. Then it may be me, the GA, the defensive line coach, and the head coach, and they may have questions. Well, how did this kid do in this particular thing? How did they do with this? How was their first step with this? If you took these 5 guys, where would you rank them 1 through 5? Who would be the top guy down? So we talk about that kind of stuff for our particular position.
Yeah.
And each position's doing that every time they can get the kids to go, and you get a free minute to evaluate it.
I got you.
Then you get to the one-on-ones. And, this particular camp, I was working with defensive line, and my head coach was working with offensive line because that was what his specialty was. So now we're at one-on-ones, and it's my head coach and the offensive line coach, and then the defensive line coach and myself. We have a group of one-on-ones, and it may be their 7 best offensive linemen and their 8 best defensive linemen that we had evaluated in the thing.
Gotcha. And
so, it may come over there, and the defensive line coach may ask me, he goes, okay, who's the best, who's the highest evaluated one out of what we've seen today? And I'll say, jersey number 12. And they'll ask the offensive line coach and my head coach, who was the top-rated offensive lineman, number 172. Okay, next time around, we want to see number 12 go against 172. So, we can evaluate things that way.
Mm-hmm.
And when it all comes down to it, okay, after those one-on-ones are done, before they get ready, there's going to be a period where they may go get, there different camps do different things. Some of them you can go take pictures. You can go do things like that. They may have a snack or something for you. But before you leave, the head coach or whoever is going to speak, or their guest speaker or somebody's going to speak. So while they're doing that, all of the coaches may be meeting to give their evaluation from the one-on-ones. Mm-hmm. Okay, he didn't do great in the individual drill, but when you put him in a competition against somebody, he did awesome.
He rose up.
Really showed good footwork and did this and did that. He didn't do so well against the sled because the sled didn't move in front of him. But when things are moving in front of him, you really see that raw talent break out. Things like that. Okay. And you get kind of evaluate those different ways. Then you get to talk, we were talking to different coaches and giving them our ideas. And in that situation, they felt comfortable enough taking the information from us that we knew what we were doing. But I mean, that just depends on that, like you said, that relationship you build. I mean, we had 5 players go play at NC State. They knew what we based our stuff on and what we were focused on. So,
I got you.
Now, can I ask there?
Yeah, go ahead, Curtis.
Oh, my bad. Have you ever had a coach? Has there ever been a kid at a camp that stood out so much where you had a head coach or recruiting coordinator say, "We want to talk to him"? Essentially, getting off.
There's been kids we've seen. Like I said, you have this list of all the kids that registered for the camp, and they're gonna be given numbers. And you're given a list of who these kids are, so you can check, because you have to record their testing stuff, so it has to be written out and recorded. So you have a list of the kids that are there, their name and what their shirt number or whatever it is. Now, don't get it wrong. Some of these kids identify when they come in. Like I said, he's going to say, "Hey, this kid right here coming in, he's the guy we're looking at. He's the guy we're recruiting." So he's marked on their sheet, whether we checked it off, it's highlighted, whether his jersey is red with black numbers where all the rest of them are red with white numbers, or, however they do it to make certain individuals stand out. You're going to know who they are. There may be a kid that come in cold off the street, signed up, and he looks good. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the cases with Contavious, was he come in before his junior year, and he's in an area that hadn't been heavily recruiting him because he had just moved there. All of a sudden, he sets a camp on fire. They're like, hey, mark that, get him out of that group, bring him over to this group, and you two evaluate him where he was over there. Player A said that he was dominating everything over there, and he was amazing, that we need to be looking at it. So we bring him over to one of those groups to where we can evaluate him, and some of the other coaches get to see him as well.
Get to see him against more high caliber guys that you already know something about, see how he does against them.
Some of the coaches may not look so much at the rising ninth graders at the camp, because they really, they can talk to them, but they can't actively recruit them into ninth grade. Mm-hmm. But you got this kid that's a rising junior. He's in the prime of recruiting. We need to get on board and find out where this kid fits. We can pull him in there. Let's get him with this group. So yeah, that definitely happens. It's not, I wouldn't say it's every camp that you go out and you get a kid that blows up and appears out of nowhere, but it's definitely possible. And there's the ones that come in and be like, this is a kid we're looking at. And by the end of the camp, they're just like, nope.
Erasing it.
So let me ask this. Is there a kid that coaches don't really know from Adam that's walking in that's going to walk away with a scholarship from these camps?
I seriously doubt it.
Okay.
9 times out of 10, they're walking into the camp. If they leave with a scholarship offer, somebody knew a lot about them before they got there.
Gotcha.
They're one of the list. They're one of the guys.
They're on the list when they arrive. If they don't have a scholarship when they're there and they walk away with it.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Now you can be one of those borderline kids. Yeah, we know who you are. We like what we've seen your film. We know that you can play. We're trying to decide and come out and blow that thing out of the water at a camp and go, hey, yeah, he's worth it.
Okay.
I mean, that can happen. But somebody that walks in stone cold off the street and just appears, I mean, there's no – I haven't seen at a camp a Rudy story where a guy just appears out of nowhere, blows it up, and, gets a scholarship and then mows the field afterwards. I haven't seen that. I mean, I guess it's possible, but –
So you might go to a camp and get on a team's radar, but you're not going to the camp and all of a sudden you got a scholarship in your hand. Gotcha.
Yeah, and you can go in there and open some eyes and say, hey, we might need to start watching this cat.
Not impossible, but improbable, probably.
Yeah, not impossible, but improbable. That's a great way to put it, Curtis.
There we go, Curtis.
A man of words right there.
Wordsmith.
Exactly. All right, so before we jump off here tonight, Robbie, we're going to give the floor to you, because for anybody listening out there, whether you are a high school kid, whether you are a parent, me and Brian are parents. So, obviously we've got a ways to go before any of this stuff takes place. But for maybe some of you guys who have kids getting older, Robbie wanted just to give a little info so you guys kind of know how to go into these things. And Robbie, I'm assuming this isn't just for football, but this is for any sport, right?
Yeah. My biggest thing, and it's like I said earlier, when it comes to the kids and these coaches and all this stuff, I want to be honest about things, because it's my word. It's my evaluation of things, of these kids and stuff that they're going to take, and we build relationships off of those things. We want, if I could go in, I'd give every one of my kids on my team a scholarship, because I want them to go to college. I want them to be successful. I want them to be, great citizens and productive citizens everywhere. That's what I want for every kid that has ever played for me, for every kid that thought about playing and didn't play. That as an educator, as a teacher, as a coach, that's what I want. I want every kid to have that chance to succeed. they don't allow me to give scholarships. So I have to use the relationships that I build and put my stamp on the kids that I know that I can help. And I tell them with honesty, go to these camps, get the exposure you can get. If you have $250 this year to spend to go to camps, okay, my first piece of advice would be don't spend all $250 at every ACC and SEC camp or every Big 10, Big 12 camp, whatever. Don't blow every dime you have on Power 5, camps. And the reason I say that is, statistically, you look at it. There's 5 conferences. There's 10, 11, 12 teams in the conference. Each team has 85 scholarships. Okay? I'm not a math magician. But that chance is slim. Okay? And there's 300. I know in North Carolina there's like 317 high school football teams total.
Yeah.
Okay. Each one of those teams have anywhere from 40 to 70, 80 kids on the team. It's 317 in one state that plays football. And that's, 10 conferences, maybe 115, 120 teams in all of Power 5 that have 85 kids. So all of you can't go there. As much as you want to go to Alabama, you may not be able to. So think about your education first, okay? The things that you want out of life. Football's not going to last forever. I tell the kids all the time, football's not going to last forever. I've coached for 15 years, say an average of 50 kids per year, 15 years. Y'all are the numbers guys. Y'all can figure out that kind of math. I've coached well over 2,000 kids in my 15 years of coaching. 2 of them right now are in the NFL. 2. All 2,000 of them at one point in their life, their goal was probably to play professional football, play in the NFL. And 2 of them are there. So you got to find something else to finish life with. You've got to find something to be that you're going to go professional, but what's it going to be in? And the likelihood of it being football is not it. Find what you want to do. Okay, find the schools that are best at that. You want to play football, find the schools that have the football programs that you want to play for. Okay, pick one of the big schools. Pick that dream school. If your dream school is Alabama, if your dream school is Virginia Tech, go to the camp. Get that exposure. Go enjoy every bit of it. Then find say you're a Virginia kid, find a JMU. Then find a Division II school, a Virginia State. Then find a couple of D3 schools, things like that. Make sure you vary where you spend your time at those camps. Like I said, a lot of those camps you go to, you're going to find coaches from other schools there anyway, especially the bigger ones. Mm-hmm. So use those processes and help yourself. Get your exposure that way. Don't spend every dime you have traveling all over the world, traveling all over the United States to these big schools that you have less than 2% chance of going to. That would be my biggest thing to tell them. And again, look around at the talent that's there and see where you fit in. I mean, I've worked for the last 11, 12 years for a phenomenal coach. And he played college. He had pro workouts. Okay. He played a Division II college in West Virginia. Okay. His dream was to go to Penn State. He went to camp at Penn State and he said, I knew 30 minutes after registration by looking at the guys that were around me, I was not going to Penn State. He said, I was 6'4", 300 pounds, and I was one of the smallest linemen there. He said, I knew then I wasn't going to Penn State, but I was going to play football. And that's what he did. He worked his way around, and you know, he ended up to start with at a small school, I think in Pennsylvania, called Teal College, and then he transferred to Glenville State. So I mean, and even at Glenville State, he ended up with pro workouts. It didn't work out. He wasn't quite, he didn't quite measure up in those situations, but that's okay. I mean, he got his education. Yep. He's been coaching and teaching. He's coached at the college level, taught at the college level. Now he's teaching and coaching in the high school, and he's been very successful. So, and that's what he wanted to do. Outside of football, he still wanted to be involved in it. So those are the things that I would put out there, and I would tell the kids to vary those things, to make sure you do those. Don't limit yourself just to the big schools, because it's not going to work out as much. For the parents, the biggest thing I would say is support the kids. Don't push them towards something that you see for them that they may not see for themselves. I understand, pushing them to get to that, but don't push them to something that you would want to see rather than what's realistic. That's a big thing. You see a lot of parents that push things because it's what they want, and it may not be what the kids want. And that's the biggest thing. It's going to come out to be a lot easier when the kid wants to be there and wants to do it than it is just because they were told to. But that's the biggest thing in it, I think. The camps are great. Like you said, possible but not probable when it comes into walking into one. But 9 times out of 10, the kids that are going into camp. Now, at the end of these camps, you're gonna see some kids that at the end of camp, the guest speaker spoken. Now all of a sudden, you're going to see these coaches start talking to individual kids, and then I've seen them at the end of those camps, like you said, after June 1st, that recruiting thing is up, and they can start recruiting again. I've seen kids come to these camps, and at the end of that camp, they're walking away with the head coach and the recruiting coordinator, and then they reappear with a scholarship offer. Mm-hmm. Okay, that wasn't a kid that walked in. From my experience, that wasn't a kid that walked in the table. Yeah, that wasn't a kid that walked to the table at 9:00 that morning and paid $85 and put on a regular shirt and everything and got in the group just like it was. That was a kid that walked up to that table up there and handed them the voucher that they had received. And there's a coach somewhere saying, that's so-and-so from, Blacksburg High School. He's a 4-star defensive end recruit. He's 6'4", 265 pounds, runs a 4.64. They know everything about him already. That's usually the kid that's wandering off and sitting in an office somewhere to talk to the head coach a little bit later.
That's me at a couple camps when I was going to them when I was a junior, and I was that regular guy. And then Marcus Vick was the guy that was getting pulled to the side and talking to the coaches. Yeah,
absolutely. So, I mean, the possible, not probable.
There we go.
Once they know who they are when they come to the table, as a probable. Every once in a while, there's a possible. The rest of them, if they're talking to the head coach afterwards, it's probably to take a picture and get an autograph. But I mean, it's just realistic. Now, like I said, I'm gonna tell the truth, and that's what the truth is. But I mean, that's the big thing about the camps is it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to show what you can do, but have realistic expectations when it comes down to it.
There we go.
Well, Robbie, we appreciate you joining us tonight, man. It's been way too long, since we've seen you. Thanks to COVID, unfortunately, because normally Robbie would swing by Richmond and we somehow he'd catch Brian, he'd catch me, we all catch up, go to Hurley's to have some wings. Hopefully, in the next few months, we do this in person. Maybe we get to watch a game together. I don't know if we want to do that. That might be dangerous.
Have some wings, watch a little football.
Hell yeah.
I told you the other day, I was like, it's time to get together. You know, I got kids. I've had for years, I've had kids at different places playing ball and things like that. I've been running from place to place to watch games and things like that. And I spent a lot of time at NC State. I spent some time at Clemson. So now I think this year there's going to be a lot less traveling. I can get back to my roots and watch some more Virginia Tech football.
Yes, sir.
But like I said, I got another kid that just committed to NC State this past weekend, so I can head back to Raleigh. And I know some of the Virginia Tech fans don't want to hear it, but I got some connections in Raleigh that I can get to games if I need to call Coach Wiles. You know, I can work out because once again I have a pretty decent relationship there. So he's a good dude, and I know he did an amazing job in Blacksburg, and
yes, he did.
We're glad to have him in Raleigh as well. So, we'll spend some time in Raleigh again, and we'll see how everything goes.
There we go.
We'll definitely get together and watch a little Hokie football. Y'all will have to catch me up on how things are going. I've fallen a little behind.
Well, you've been a busy man with all this stuff going on, man. So definitely on that. And that is going to wrap up this episode of the Boundary Corner podcast, along with our guest, Robbie Compton. I'm Curtis Wilson.
I'm Brian Siegler.
Visit our website at boundarycornerbt.com to listen to all our episodes. While you're there, don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, or your favorite podcast source, Spotify, Amazon, Apple. Brian's made sure they are everywhere. If you're looking to join the Hokie Club and help achieve the Reach for Excellence goal, please visit boundarycornerbt.com/giving to get started. As always, we let our buddy, Robbie's former roommate, Jason Long, play us out. Catch him on Spotify and Apple Music. We thank you for listening. And as always, let's go.
Hokies!